All right. Thank you so much for coming. Some of you might have missed this live, but you can watch this on the pre-recording on the Notary Podcast. If you like the content, please hit like and subscribe. We're so fortunate today, finally able to get the 2023 Notary of the Year, Christine Hough. Am I pronouncing that right?
Hough, yes.
Hough. Yes, Christine Hough. She's one of the most busiest people you'll find on this earth. She is very busy. She's helping a lot of people, and I don't want to delay anything. I want to get right into it with the 2023 National Notary of the Year, Christine Hough. Christine, are you originally from California?
I am. Yeah, I was born and raised in the San Diego area and still live here today.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. What's your educational background? Because a lot of people ask, Notary of the Year, how did you get to that place? What's your educational background?
Yeah, so I have a Bachelor of Arts in Public Administration from the Southern California, or not Southern California, sorry, Southern New Hampshire University.
Ah,
And I graduated summa cum laude there. And it was funny because after graduation, all of a sudden I got a certificate in the mail naming me as a distinguished scholar. And
wow.
it was like 9 months, I think, after I graduated. So that was kind of a surprise.
Oh,
But it was cool to receive that. And then I went through the paralegal program at the University of San Diego paralegal program. And of course, over the years, as a paralegal, I've attended various CLEs, including National Notary Association seminars, where you do the education and training and the
yes.
exam, same day exam.
So how, as a notary and paralegal, how important is it to you to get education, continual education?
Yeah, so as a paralegal, it's required in California. A paralegal has to have a certain number of CLE credits for both general, that kind of cover general topics, but also hours of ethics CLEs. So every 2 years, we have to do 4 hours of ethics and 4 hours of general education. And that's pursuant to Business and Professions Code, which is the code that kind of sets forth the parameters for paralegals.
Okay, okay. And how long have you been a paralegal?
So officially, I've been a paralegal since 2014, so 10 years this year. But before that, I did paralegal level work, but because of the limitations of Business and Professions Code, I couldn't call myself a paralegal. And
Oh,
that's because I didn't have a bachelor's degree at the time, because they did in 2020 or 2003, they
mhm.
implemented Business and Professions Code 6450, and that set forth very specific parameters for individuals how they could call themselves a paralegal. And one of them is to go to an education or training program that has a minimum number of credit hours. Another is that you can have a bachelor's degree and work under an attorney for at least 1 year. And then if prior to that statute being implemented, they allowed a grandfather statute, and a
Mhm.
paralegal had to work under an attorney who was in good standing with the State Bar of California for at least 3 years prior to the enactment of the statute, in order for themselves to have what they call a paralegal by declaration.
Yeah, yeah. So in order for all that, saying all that, the reason why they have those particular guidelines is help to protect the public, right?
That's correct. That's so correct.
Okay.
The
Very,
same
very
way
good.
we have our notary guidelines, right?
Yes, yes, to help to protect the public and also to help you with the notary guidelines. And
Yeah.
speaking of notary, as I did my research on you, you became a notary in 2006 because your employer asked you, because they were trying to expand their service, correct? To become a notary?
Yeah, so we had a notary on site, but that person had moved on to a different position. So we still needed a notary, and he asked if I could go to the, classes and become a notary. And so I did. And I've been one ever since. And it's something that I've continued to renew by choice, for not necessarily in a professional capacity, but because I actually like doing the work, and it allows me to interact with all kinds of people that I've, wouldn't otherwise come across, right? In
Yes,
my
yes.
interactions. Yeah.
Yeah, and I read something about uh you had a great experience with the Mesa Grande tribal reservation in Santa, is that Westville, California?
Yeah, it's Santa Isabel, California. So it's
Isabel.
it's a rural community. At the time, I started doing that notary work. I was living in Ramona in a
Mhm.
community called San Diego Country Estates, and it was about 20 miles, I want to say, from where I lived at the time, which was pretty far out there. So, um, I had got a call from someone saying, I can't get anybody to come to the reservation and notarize documents for me. And she had told me that she called, I think, about 2 dozen, around 2 dozen
Wow,
notaries to try
wow.
to get someone to come out and notarize documents, and they wouldn't do it. And so I said, I'll do it, it'll just take me a little while to get there because it's
Yeah.
kind of out there. And the road to get into the reservation, it starts off as a paved road, but then it turns into dirt, and then it turns from a 2-lane road to a 1-lane road.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then it's very windy, and you got to get down in there. And actually, the first time I went to the reservation, I saw a mountain lion on the road. And
Did you say a mountain lion?
yeah, mountain
Oh,
lion. I
wow.
saw a lion on the road, and I was like, did I just see what I just saw? Because that was the closest I had ever been to a mountain lion outside of, like, a zoo or a wild animal park or whatever.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, I'll just make sure that I get like inside real quick.
How many notaries can say they went to an assignment and saw a mountain lion on their way to an assignment? Wow.
Yeah. So, but that particular client, kept calling me to come out and notarize on her behalf. And so, she actually referred other people to me because I was willing to go to those rural locations. And as you know, I believe that's part of the reason why I was selected as notary of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mhm.
Wow. I'm sure she really appreciated you coming out there, especially that was quite. I've been a notary for over 20 years. I've never seen a mountain lion on my way. I've seen a lot of goats and cows, but never a mountain lion. That's pretty impressive. You also did some volunteer work at the San Diego Volunteer Lawyers Program with the AIDS and HIV clinic. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I had received an email, and I believe it was from an association I was a member of at the time, who had forwarded an email from the San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program looking for notaries to help with their HIV/AIDS clinic. And this was pre-pandemic, of course. So this was December of 2015. And they had in-person clinics every single
Mhm.
week,
Wow.
at I believe it was the grounds of a church in the Hillcrest neighborhood in San Diego. And so I would go there and notarize documents whenever they needed me to, based upon the demand of their client base. So the clinic served a lot of people that were, had terminal illness or approaching the end of life, and they were disabled, very low income, and could not otherwise afford, legal assistance or even a notary, pay a notary fee. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I started doing that with them. And I remember one instance in particular where I had met one of their clients up in Escondido, which is probably about 30 to 35 miles from their office in
Mm.
downtown. And this person felt, they were supposed to bring a witness to witness some of their estate planning documents, and they couldn't get anybody to do it. And so I
Mhm.
actually pulled a customer aside because I met her in a Starbucks. And I
Okay.
pulled the customer aside and I asked the customer if they would be willing to act as a witness on her estate planning documents. And then I notarized her other documents she needed notarized. And, you know, she was so grateful and she was so apologetic. And it was, striking to me that someone could feel bad, that they couldn't make something happen for themselves,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's already someone who's dealing with a lot anyway. And so it really didn't, take a whole lot of my time. And, of course I drove there and drove back, but
Yeah.
as far as the actual notarization part and like getting the estate planning documents, witnessed, it was maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but she was so appreciative, so appreciative that
Mhm,
I, would drive up there and do that for her, and she wouldn't be charged for it,
mhm,
And so it it really had an impact on me, and I noticed more and more as I continued to serve SDVLP's clients that, these are people that don't have a whole lot of interaction sometimes,
yeah,
and have, just kind of general, you know, they're at home a lot, so they don't get out a lot,
yeah,
And
yeah,
so just to have that simple interaction with someone who's being kind to them and doing something for them, even though it's not a super huge thing, it really makes an impact, and it can really make someone's day too, like you could literally change the course of someone's day and their entire mood by just doing something so simple. And I think that's part of the reason why I continue to do this, because it's really doesn't take a whole lot of my time, and it's helping someone who's less fortunate. So, why not?
yeah, yeah. I just having that just one little small interaction with them could definitely change the course of their lives, and I've seen that happen over and over again. And I just along those lines, I know you've been in law school, you've been to Spain, studying abroad. You're doing all kinds of things in your community. This is why I always tell people whenever you come up in a conversation, I say, "Well, she is one of the highest performers I've seen in years. She really keeps herself performing at a high level." What would you say three qualities that you have that people would say, "Yep, she's a high performer of a high performer"?
Yeah, so I mean we could go into all kinds of stuff, right? But I would say that, there's three really important things, and that's for anything that anyone decides to do.
Uh-huh.
And I think understanding is number one, is that if you commit yourself to doing something, you want to understand why you're doing it, ask questions, seek clarification if you don't quite understand a certain
Yeah,
direction, and confirm after you do something that whoever asked you to do it, with whoever asked you to do it, that, what you delivered was what they were actually seeking, right? And you in the paralegal profession in particular, you come across things like that a lot where, you might be understanding something one way, but because, an attorney you're working for has a different type of experience or has a different expectation, that maybe it's not quite what you're going to deliver might not quite be exactly what they're looking for. It's probably on the right track, but maybe not exactly what they're looking for. So I always like to meet with people I haven't worked with before in particular, meet with them and say,
yeah,
okay, please tell me what your preferences are. What do you expect from me? I mean, obviously you have a general idea what somebody expects, but there are things that are very nuanced and very specific to individuals in particular. And I think that that's one way that anybody in any field can maximize,
mhm,
the return on their investment in being in a particular position, and maximize their value to the company that they're working for, is to make sure that they're doing exactly what they've been hired to do,
mhm,
and that it's on the level with what's being expected, right? And so that's number one. And I think, analyzing what you're doing and how you're doing it is a major way to also, continue to perform at a high level, but also you're gaining every time you do something, you're gaining some little bit of knowledge, right?
mhm,
So there's no two things are going to happen the exact same way. You
yeah,
know, someone's mood can be different, even though you've been asked to do the same thing that someone else asked you to do. Someone's mood can be different, their personality style can be different, their expectation of what the final product looks like can be different. And so if there's a way that you can streamline your process, that's there's always room for improvement, right? The way that you do something, like you could be doing something for one way for 10 years, and then all of a
mhm,
sudden this little light bulb goes off and you're
yeah,
like, well, why didn't I do it this way before?
yes,
Right? That cut out this amount of time, right? And
yeah,
now I can move to the next thing. And I think seeking feedback for to learn how you could perform better the next time around, is part of that process, you
Yeah.
know? So what are you doing? Can you do anything to improve? You know, can you be open to suggestions? So that's the third element, is applying what you've learned in your prior roles or in your prior projects, and be open to suggestions, and then take those and streamline that information, you know? So create a checklist for yourself. You know, for example, I started creating checklists years and years ago, 20 years ago, in law firms, to do specific types of things. For example, like a default judgment in California has like a very specific set of documents that have to be filed, and you have to just, depending on whether you want a clerk judgment or a court judgment, you have to file a dismissal of the does. And so the does are the people that are fictitious names that haven't been named in the case, but
Hmm.
you're putting a placeholder in there so that you can name them if their identities are discovered, right?
Yeah.
But with a default judgment, that leaves the case open for someone else to be brought in. So the court doesn't allow you to keep does in a case where you're seeking a default judgment. So you got to dismiss the does before you can file the default judgment package and go from there. So I would create myself a checklist and say, okay, you serve the party. If the party doesn't respond, you file the request for entry of default. Once the request for entry of default is,
Hmm.
filed, then you prepare your default judgment package and you dismiss the does. And then you have, all these things that you have to file in your judgment package in order to, for the court to enter the default judgment. And so you have to have for lack of a better phrase, have your ducks in a row, right?
Yeah.
To make
Yeah.
sure that you're doing exactly what you need to do. And then there's also, like, in courts in particular, there's a lot of local forms that you have to file
Yeah.
after a case is initiated. Like, for example, San Diego Superior Court has what they called, or they used to, I'm not sure if they still have it, but they used to have what's called a certificate of service. And if you did not have a proof of service on file, you at least had to notify the court the status of service of a party. So, those are different kind of things that, you can put in place, checklists that you can put in place to make sure that you've got everything lined up like you're supposed to.
But I've heard a lot of great things on there. So I'm going to peel back a little bit. When you're working, your situation, you're working with an attorney. Some notaries, a lot of notaries that are out there. There's paralegal notaries out there, like yourself. They're working with title companies, which a lot of the title companies are owned by attorneys. And said just making sure first, you want to make sure that you could be thinking, oh, I'm just killing this job, I'm killing this assignment. But what you said was you have to make sure you are doing it according to what they see as killing that job,
Right,
right? Yeah.
right,
So first, it's communication between you and whoever your employer is, or your title company, or whoever the assignment is given. Just
right.
making sure you have that communication. So that's the first thing you suggest.
Yeah,
The,
yeah,
the,
communication.
yes,
For sure, communication and the checklist. And what is a checklist really? If you create it yourself, you're communicating with yourself what
yes,
needs to be done, you know? And so
yes,
that's always good to reflect into, with yourself. And also, and then after you create that checklist, you can bring that checklist to someone and say, here's what I have.
yeah.
I think everything's there. Let me know if there's anything that you would change or add or, modify.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I like that you said, that you created a checklist. So many noticed, because we just had a meetup. They said, well, I need somebody else to create a checklist for me in order to do it. But from what I'm hearing, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you said, I'm going to create a checklist because I'm the professional, correct?
Well, yeah, I'm creating a checklist because I want to make sure that I'm doing it right, right?
Yes, yes,
So it's not just about, and I think a lot of the times people expect other people to just tell them what's up, right? Or
yes,
tell them
yes,
what to do.
yes,
But that's not the world that we live in,
yes,
it's survival of the fittest, right? I mean,
yes,
that person that goes out and asks the right questions is going to be the one that succeeds, right?
yes.
You
Absolutely,
you can't,
absolutely.
Yeah, you can't just rely on other people and say, okay, well, this person just told me to do it this way, so that's got to be the right way. No, you have
Yes.
to. If they told you to do something, make sure you're checking what they told you to do to make sure
Yeah.
that it's right, right?
Yeah, that's so powerful. Because as notaries, especially notaries that work for a lot of different companies, it's so powerful to check back in, circle back around. Is this the way you want me to do it? Because a lot of people have a self. They think about it and they think they're doing it and saying, because I've met so many notaries over the years that do things that are totally contrary to what their employer or the signing company or the attorney wants them to do. So what you're saying is just right dead on, just great gold nuggets there. Make sure you follow back up. Checklist, create your checklist. Do you know when I first started my notary business, I researched some other people that had businesses, not necessarily notaries, but other businesses. I researched Ray Kroc, the guy that started McDonald's, and he said, "I've when I started restaurants, I made checklists, and that's why I can bring in high school students that never worked before and help me run a multi-million dollar restaurant." So what you said is just gold nuggets there. Checklist is awesome. What
Yeah.
advice would you give someone just starting out in the job market as an entrepreneur or as a paralegal or as a notary? What advice would you give a person?
Yeah, I say the first thing is to know the business that you're interested in getting into. You can't just jump in and be like, okay, I'm going to do this, right? You have to research it. You have to
Yeah.
understand what the demand is for the service or the product that you're trying to get out there. You have to look at the market. You can see, you can look at what other people are doing and see if there's a way that you think that it could be done better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you also think one thing that I notice is that people, for example, people that come from a different field other than the legal field and they're brand new in the legal field, is
Hmm.
that they don't realize that they have existing transferable skills that they can
Yes.
use in the legal field, you know?
Yes.
And like, for example, I knew someone in particular who came from the service industry,
Hmm.
right? And they ran their own business. They fielded customer questions, addressed customer complaints and all of
Hmm.
that stuff. And those are all transferable skills. Those are skills that you can use in the legal field or in your notary business, because your clients are customers, so you're going to have customer service. You want to bill a client, you want them to pay on time, you know, ask them what you can do to make sure that you're getting what you need out of the relationship and they're getting what they need out of the relationship,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
because a lot of times what happens is, for example, I came into a position and I ended up doing collections, and there was so much money out there that wasn't being collected, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Nobody was following up on collections. Nobody was, calling the client or customer and saying, "Hey, we have this outstanding invoice," and yada yada yada. And
Yeah.
I ended up making a spreadsheet of all of the outstanding invoices. I personally followed up with each client via email and then by phone call. And I
Hmm.
ended up bringing in a bunch of the money that was still outstanding, and it had been outstanding for like a few years,
Wow.
and
Wow.
it's like, it's like all it really is. That's the importance of having a system or a standard operating procedure, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
protocols and procedures that are in place to not only protect you in your position, but it protects your employer if you working for someone else. But for yourself, you need to have those, especially it's so important as an entrepreneur or as a self-employed individual to be disciplined, right? You need to be disciplined and you have to make sure that people are paying on you on time because you can't
Yeah.
continue to do what you do unless you have a system in place, right?
Yes. Yes, you're hitting a lot of great things, having a system in place, and also I like what you said about using your existing transferable skills.
That's
I
right.
running across so many. We just had a meetup in our office just a little while ago, and so many people say, "I'm just coming here. I'm coming from the service industry. I'm coming from corporate America. I'm coming from this industry, and I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to go about it." But just those three words, existing transferable skills, will help so much. I got to ask you, because you said that you were, we talked a little bit before this, and the reason why I'm asking this is because I get so many people, like we had about 3 or 4 people come in to our meetup today and say, well, Daniel, I've gotten the education down. I think I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm just so introverted. I don't know how to get out there. I don't know how to overcome the anxiety, if you will, to go out and talk to people, to go out and how would what would you recommend to those people?
Yeah, so I say one thing you could recommend to those people, and I used to be one of those people, by the way. I was very, very shy when I was a kid for like a long time, right? And then something happened and I hit high school and I decided that I really wasn't going to let what other people thought about me bother me, because what they think about me is their problem, not mine, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so I think that that's so important, and it's important to be confident and go after what you want, right?
yes,
So important. I mean, ultimately, you're going to be happy if you're going after what you want, right?
yes,
So
yes,
think of it that way. You know, if someone you can talk to 100 people and 99 of them can turn you down, but if you have one person that says, "Yeah, I'll give you a shot," that is going to be all the difference in the world, you know? And
hmm,
marketing too. What you're doing, like this conversation you and I having right now, this is marketing, you know?
yes,
We are literally talking about what we do as a business, but other people are going to see it, right?
yes,
So
yes,
not only is it us marketing ourselves, but this conversation might give someone else the confidence to take that next step, right?
yes, yes,
They're seeing us having this conversation, seeing what we've done with
yes,
ourselves and our businesses, right? So every communication, every interaction, that is an opportunity for networking, you know,
yes,
every single communication. And I say for people that are don't have the confidence yet to go up to someone and talk to them in person, I think what you do is you do stuff like this, online Zoom meetings and meetups,
yes,
right? And
yes,
maybe the first time or maybe the first 10 times you don't turn on your camera. You just,
yeah,
you
yes,
just unmute yourself and you introduce yourself and you let people know, I'm not used to speaking in this, kind of setting,
hmm,
and I'm trying to get used to it. But the more you do it, the more confident you're going to get. So that maybe after the 10th time, you turn your video on and you talk, right?
yeah,
And so you do 10 more of those, and then the 20th time, you're ready to go talk to somebody in person, right?
yes,
And so
yes,
you take those baby steps to overcome that shyness, that introversion, all of those things that in some respects can hold people back. But I
yeah,
think also too, people that have those qualities, those are positive qualities too, you
yeah,
know? It's not just about, the extrovert. The introverts matter too, and they have a different perspective because of they
yes,
are who they are. And I think
yes,
and that being said, that's one of the things that I'm passionate about is diversity, inclusion, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because every single person deserves an opportunity and every single person should have a seat at the table, right? And
yes,
so these are different qualities, diversity isn't just about what race you are, what eye color you have, whether or not you have a disability, what sector of business you work in. It's about every single possible characteristic about a person and having a space for that person to be included, right? And to feel
yeah,
like they actually belong. And
yes,
so I think that's one aspect that is so important in your interactions with people is you're showing the world who you are in every single interaction,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's important to be able to talk to people in person and on Zoom and on the phone,
yeah,
because you're showing someone else who you are. And the more you're able to open up and the more you can express yourself in a confident way, the more
yeah,
other people are going to be willing to work with you.
yes, yes. You said so many great things there. I like that you said you're going to be happy if you are going after what you want. So,
Right.
so powerful, so powerful phrase. Is there anything else you would tell somebody new coming into the notary business, somebody new in the being an entrepreneur? Anything else you want to leave our audience?
Yeah, I think, it's important to make sure that you give back. Me personally, I think that every single person in a community should dedicate a small amount of time every month or every couple months and do something good in their community. That could be volunteering as a soup kitchen or
Yes,
like me with my on-call volunteer notary work with the San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program. And
yes,
in my capacity as the vice president of membership of the San Diego Paralegal Association. Those are all things that I volunteer my time for. I do not get paid for them, but
mhm,
I'm bringing positive things into the community and I'm helping spread awareness about these different things by doing these things.
yeah,
And I'm encouraging other people to get involved and do the same. And I think it's more important than ever that, you know, we give back to our communities and that we get involved. And I firmly believe that all of us, each of us can improve our local communities and, relationships with each
yes,
other and with the community through grassroots organization, right? you
yeah,
know Organizations like the San Diego Paralegal Association or the
mhm,
San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program or various other things, even the National Notary Association didn't start as like this huge organization. It
yeah,
started because a few people got together and decided we need to advocate for ourselves or we
yes,
need to advocate for this underrepresented group, right? And
mhm,
that's how things start, and that's how you get momentum, and that's how you keep the positive train rolling, right? And so I think there's so much negativity in the world that you can
yes,
literally, like we discussed before, change someone's day by simply doing something
yes.
so simple for them, right?
And yes, that little impact, that little change can impact somebody in a huge way too. Yes.
Right. Right. And here's one thing too, and that kind of touches on what we were talking about earlier with people that are more introverted or kind of shy,
Yeah.
is, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and the day I stopped worrying about the outcome of a conversation is the day that I started living, right?
Yes.
Because you can have a conversation with 1,000 people and 990 of them can
Hmm.
be something that you don't have an important takeaway from, or that you have a negative experience from. But you could have 10 interactions, and one of those interactions out of those 1,000
Yeah.
can really change the course or the direction of somebody's life or your own
Yeah.
life, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm only in the position that I'm in as at the San Diego Paralegal Association because someone who I still don't even know to this day who it was nominated me to be a director.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, "Oh, sure." Like I've never even really thought about it. And I think uh part of the hesitation with some people is that they don't feel like what they see other people do is something that they can do.
Yeah.
But it couldn't be further from the truth, because the minute you put yourself out there and the minute you say that I'm going to try, someone's going to see your effort and
Yeah.
someone's going to give you an opportunity, or you can even ask for that opportunity. And
Yeah.
if you're sincere about it and you show that you're eager and you show enough interest, that person's going to give you an opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can see people gravitating to you or saying, "Hey, that's a leader. That's the person we want to get behind," because your energy is just so positive. You have such a great positive energy, positive vibe about you. That's why people gravitate to you and say, "Yeah, yeah, if we need a leader or somebody who's strong in that position, you're the person that we want to have there." I can see that happening because when I met you, I could just feel your positive energy all around you. Not everybody has that. So
That's
I'm
true.
just so
That's
so
true.
happy
But
to be around.
I could say the same for you. When I met you at the NNA conference last year, you have such a great energy, so positive, and I love that so much. I mean, and it does. When you radiate positive energy, it draws people to you
Yeah,
because people want to,
yes,
feel that positive and that happiness and, that vigor for what you're doing, So it
yes,
really, I'm so glad that, we have this opportunity to sit down and talk about things, that we enjoy.
absolutely. And hopefully, will I see you this year at the?
I actually have a trip planned over the weekend, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not I kind of want to I mean, I want to make the trip, but I already have this other trip planned.
Yes.
So if I do make it, it wouldn't be until like the last night or two.
Okay.
But for sure, I definitely want to go for sure next year if I don't make it this year.
Okay. Very, very good. Very good. Well, I am so happy to have you on. You have been you have exceeded my expectations. You've just been very good. I just love your energy. I love the information you gave us about everything. You just was very, very good. A lot of good nuggets. I was writing down things as you were talking to get these nuggets in there, but I hope everybody really appreciates you. You're one of the most busiest people that I've seen, not busy, but very purposeful, very intentional. I really like that about you. I really envy that about you. So I hope to see you soon on out there on the road on a speaking engagement, or hopefully if anyone get a chance to see this young lady um, on a speaking engagement anywhere in the San Diego area, anywhere for the NNA, please take the time. If you're within 200 miles, you want to go see her because she's very dynamic, very energetic, and she has that positive vibe that you want to. Sometimes, if you don't have it, you should go and borrow it from someone else. And she's somebody that you want to go see. So, thank you again for coming for this podcast. And if you like the content, please hit like and subscribe. Hope to see you soon on the road, Christina.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.